Welcome back to the Expensive Coins History channel. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating story of a coins you've probably seen 1,000 times in your pocket, yet might be worth a lot more than you think. We're talking about the top 6 Washington quarter dollars, its history, rarity, market value, and what it could be worth in 2026. The 1984 D Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar is one of those coins that often goes unnoticed in everyday circulation, yet it carries a surprisingly interesting story when you look deeper into its history, condition, and collector demand. Many people assume that only very old coins are valuable, but modern coins like the 1984 D quarter can be worth significant money under the right circumstances. Understanding why requires looking at how the coin was made, how many were produced, how collectors evaluate condition, and how the market is expected to behave as we move toward 2026. The Washington quarter design has been a cornerstone of United States coinage for generations. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the design quickly became a permanent part of American currency. By 1984, the Washington quarter had already been in production for over 5 decades, and the design was familiar to every American. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, with the word Liberty across the top and "In God We Trust" positioned to the left of the portrait. The reverse shows a powerful eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness, framed by olive branches representing peace. The 1984 D quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, indicated by the small D Mint mark located on the obverse near Washington's ponytail. That year, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters, making this coin very common in circulation. Because of this high mintage, most 1984 D quarters you find today are worth only face value. They were heavily used in commerce during the 1980s and 1990s, and many examples show significant wear, scratches, and dull surfaces. These circulated coins typically hold no premium beyond their 25-cent denomination. However, coin value is not determined by mintage alone. Condition plays a massive role in numismatics, and this is where the 1984 D Washington quarter begins to stand out. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect mint condition. A circulated coin shows wear on the highest points of the design, such as Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. An uncirculated coin, on the other hand, shows no wear and retains much of its original mint luster. While millions of 1984 D quarters were struck, relatively few have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Collectors place a strong premium on high-grade examples, especially those that have been professionally graded and certified. In lower uncirculated grades, the coin may only be worth a few dollars, but as the grade increases, the value rises sharply. Coins graded in very high mint state levels are genuinely scarce. These coins were either saved immediately after minting or carefully preserved for decades, avoiding the damage that comes from everyday handling. As a result, high-grade 1984 D quarters have sold for hundreds of dollars, and in exceptional cases, even more. Another factor that can dramatically increase the value of a 1984 D Washington quarter is the presence of mint errors. Errors occur during the minting process and can include off-center strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, or die-related issues such as cracks or filled dies. These errors are not common, and when they are clearly visible and well-preserved, collectors are often willing to pay strong premiums. Error coins are especially appealing because each one is unique, making them stand out from standard issues. The reason some people refer to the 1984 D quarter as being worth a lot of money is not because every example is valuable, but because a small percentage of them are truly special. This is a key concept in coin collecting. A common date can still produce rare and valuable coins when condition, errors, or varieties come into play. Many collectors actively search rolls of quarters hoping to find an unusually well-preserved 1984 D example or an overlooked mint error. As we look toward 2026, market trends suggest continued interest in high-grade modern coins. The cost of professional grading has encouraged collectors to be more selective, which in turn has made top-quality examples even more desirable. Additionally, as time passes, fewer uncirculated coins remain untouched, increasing scarcity at the upper end of the grading scale. This gradual reduction in supply can support higher values for premium specimens. By 2026, circulated 1984D quarters are still expected to trade close to face value, with only modest increases due to inflation or metal demand. Uncirculated coins in average mint state condition may see small but steady appreciation. The real potential lies in coins graded at the highest levels or those with notable mint errors. These coins are likely to remain in demand, especially among collectors who specialize in modern Washington quarters or registry sets that require top-graded examples. The 1984D Washington quarter dollar serves as a reminder that value in coin collecting is not always obvious at first glance. A coin that seems ordinary can become extraordinary when condition, rarity within grade, and collector demand align. For anyone interested in checking their spare change or building a collection, this quarter represents an excellent example of how modern coins can still offer excitement, history, and the possibility of real financial value. As we move further into the future, the best preserved examples of the 1984D quarter are likely to remain sought-after pieces that prove even everyday coins can become treasures over time. The 1988P quarter reveals why condition, preservation, and collector demand can turn an ordinary coin into something truly valuable, especially as we look ahead toward 2026. The Washington quarter design has been a cornerstone of American coinage since 1932. Created to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design by sculptor John Flanagan became an enduring symbol of American history and stability. By the time 1988 arrived, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for more than 5 decades. The portrait of Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse had become instantly recognizable to the public, representing both tradition and trust in U.S. currency. Unlike earlier silver quarters minted before 1965, the 1988 quarter was struck using a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of a copper core bonded between layers of copper and nickel. This change in metal content reflects the economic realities of the modern era and plays a key role in determining the coin's intrinsic value. The 1988P quarter was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which is identified by the small P mint mark located on the obverse of the coin. Philadelphia produced a massive quantity of quarters that year, numbering well into the hundreds of millions. This high production level means that the coin itself is not rare in terms of mintage. Millions entered circulation and were used in everyday transactions such as vending machines, parking meters, and retail purchases. As a result, most examples found today show signs of wear, including softened details, light scratches, and dull surfaces. In these circulated conditions, the coin usually holds no premium above its face value. However, the true interest in the 1988P Washington quarter begins when condition is taken into account. Coin collecting places enormous emphasis on preservation, and even common coins can become valuable when they survive in exceptional condition. Uncirculated examples of the 1988P quarter, especially those that still retain their original mint luster, sharp strike, and clean surfaces, are far scarcer than circulated pieces. Many of these coins were spent almost immediately after minting, making pristine survivors increasingly difficult to locate as time passes. Professional grading plays a major role in determining the value of these coins. Coins are evaluated on a numerical scale that measures wear, surface quality, and overall eye appeal. Lower mint state examples may carry only a small premium, but as the grade increases, the value can rise dramatically. Coins that reach the highest mint state levels are considered elite examples, often sought after by collectors building high-grade sets. These top-tier coins are the ones that can bring surprisingly strong prices at auctions and private sales. Another factor that can significantly increase the worth of a 1988P quarter is the presence of mint errors. Errors occur during the striking process and can include off-center strikes, double strikes, misaligned dies, or unusual die cracks. While most quarters were struck correctly, a small number left the mint with these anomalies. Error coins attract a dedicated segment of collectors who are willing to pay substantial premiums for authentic and visually dramatic mistakes. When properly identified and authenticated, an error 1988P quarter can be worth many times more than a standard example. Looking toward 2026, the market outlook for the 1988P Washington quarter remains stable, with gradual appreciation driven by collector interest rather than metal value. Circulated examples are expected to remain at face value or slightly above, primarily appealing to casual collectors or those filling date sets. Uncirculated and high-grade certified examples, however, are likely to continue increasing in value as fewer pristine coins remain available. As time goes on, attrition reduces the supply of top-quality pieces, and demand from collectors seeking the best examples continues to grow. It is important to understand that while the 1988 P quarter is not a rare key date, it represents a classic example of how modern coins can still become valuable under the right circumstances. Its worth is not defined by age alone, but by condition, eye appeal, and uniqueness. For collectors, this coin serves as a reminder that even everyday pocket change deserves a closer look. The 1988 P Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar is a fascinating piece of modern American coinage. Most examples will never be worth more than 25 cents, but a small number stand out as highly collectible and potentially valuable assets. As we move into 2026, collectors who take the time to examine, preserve, and properly evaluate these coins may find that what once seemed ordinary is actually worth far more than expected. This is the essence of coin collecting, discovering hidden value in the familiar, and understanding the history and craftsmanship behind the money we use every day. The 1989 Philadelphia minted Washington quarter reveals a deeper story connected to U.S. minting history, modern coin production, and the evolving collector market leading into 2026. The Washington quarter design was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, features a dignified left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse and a powerful heraldic eagle on the reverse. By the time 1989 arrived, this design had already become one of the longest-running and most recognizable images in American coinage. The 1989 quarter was struck during a period when the United States Mint focused heavily on producing massive quantities of coins to meet the demands of everyday commerce, vending machines, and public transportation systems. The P Mint mark on the 1989 Washington quarter identifies it as being struck at the Philadelphia Mint. This mint mark appears on the obverse of the coin, just above the date and slightly to the right of Washington's hair ribbon. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 500 million quarters in 1989, which explains why these coins are still extremely common in circulated condition today. The coin is composed of a copper-nickel clad structure, with outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition replaced silver quarters decades earlier and was designed for durability rather than intrinsic metal value. In circulated condition, most 1989 P Washington quarters are worth only their face value of 25 cents. These coins typically show wear on Washington's hair, cheek, and jawline, as well as flattening of the eagle's feathers on the reverse. Such wear indicates years of circulation and heavy handling, which significantly reduces collector appeal. Because so many examples exist in worn condition, the market places little premium on circulated pieces. The value story changes dramatically when condition improves. Uncirculated 1989 P quarters, especially those that retain full mint luster, sharp details, and minimal contact marks, are far more desirable. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, ranging from MS-60 to MS-70, and even small differences in grade can result in large differences in value. Lower mint state examples may sell for only a few dollars, but coins in higher grades quickly become scarce due to the realities of mass production, storage damage, and handling at the mint. The true rarity of the 1989 P Washington quarter lies in the highest mint state grades. Coins graded MS-66, MS-67, and higher represent a very small fraction of the original mintage. These coins display exceptional strike quality, clean surfaces, strong eye appeal, and brilliant original luster. Because so many quarters were dumped into circulation immediately after minting, very few were preserved in pristine condition. As a result, collectors assembling high-grade registry sets actively compete for the finest known examples, driving prices significantly higher. Some of the most valuable 1989 P quarters are those that exhibit proof-like surfaces or unusually sharp detail, even though they were not struck as proofs. These coins stand out visually and are often certified by professional grading services. Mint errors also contribute to collector interest. Off-center strikes, double strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and other unusual minting mistakes can make a 1989 P quarter far more valuable than a normal example, sometimes selling for substantial premiums depending on the severity and visibility of the error. As the collector market moves toward 2026, demand for high-quality modern coins continues to grow. Many collectors who previously focused only on older silver coins are now recognizing the scarcity of top-grade modern issues. Population reports show that while millions of 1989 P quarters exist, only a very small number survive in elite mint state condition. This imbalance between supply and demand supports strong prices for certified high-grade coins, particularly those graded MS67 and above. By 2026, market trends suggest that circulated 1989 P quarters will remain common and valued primarily for spending or bulk use. However, uncirculated examples, especially those professionally graded, are expected to hold or increase their value as competition among collectors remains steady. Exceptional specimens with top grades or notable errors may continue to sell for hundreds of dollars, and in some cases even more, depending on market conditions and collector demand. The 1989 P Mint Mark Washington quarter is a perfect example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can become valuable under the right circumstances. While most are worth only face value, the finest surviving examples represent true modern rarities. For collectors and coin enthusiasts, this quarter serves as a reminder that value is not determined solely by age or metal content, but by condition, rarity, and demand. As we move further into 2026, the 1989 P Washington quarter remains an important piece of modern U.S. numismatic history and a coin worth examining carefully before dismissing it as just another quarter. The 1990 D Mint Mark Washington quarter is a coin that many people have seen, spent, or overlooked without ever realizing its deeper story or potential value. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary quarter, but when examined through the lens of history, condition, rarity, and collector demand, this coin becomes a fascinating subject for anyone interested in United States coinage and modern numismatics. The Washington Quarter series itself began in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. The design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, features a strong and dignified profile of Washington on the front and a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings on the back. By the time 1990 arrived, this design had been in circulation for nearly 6 decades and had become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. The 1990 D Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small letter D located on the front of the coin near the date. This coin was produced in extremely large numbers, with hundreds of millions released into circulation. Because of this high mintage, the 1990 D quarter is considered very common in worn and circulated condition. Most examples that have been used in everyday commerce show signs of wear such as smooth details, faded luster, and small scratches, and these coins are generally worth no more than their face value of 25 cents. The metal composition of the 1990 D quarter is also important to understand when discussing its value. Unlike older quarters minted before 1965, which were made of 90% silver, the 1990 D quarter is a clad coin. It is composed of a copper core layered between 2 outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. Because it contains no silver, it does not carry any intrinsic precious metal value, and its worth depends entirely on condition, rarity within high grades, and collector interest. Where the value of the 1990 D Washington quarter begins to rise is in uncirculated condition. Coins that were never used in everyday transactions and retained their original mint luster are far scarcer than circulated examples, even though the overall mintage was very high. Collectors carefully examine these coins for sharp details in Washington's hair, clean fields without marks, and a strong, well-centered strike. In lower uncirculated grades, the value is usually modest, often just a few dollars, but as the grade increases, the price can rise dramatically. The most valuable 1990 D quarters are those that have been professionally graded by major grading services and assigned very high mint state grades. Coins graded MS65 are already considered premium examples, but those graded MS66 or MS67 are exceptionally rare relative to how many were originally struck. These top-grade coins often come from mint sets or were carefully saved immediately after production. Because so few survive in nearly perfect condition, collectors are willing to pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars for the finest known examples. This is where the phrase, "worth a lot of money," truly applies, even to a coin that most people think of as ordinary pocket change. Another factor that can increase the value of a 1990 Washington quarter is the presence of mint errors. Error coins occur when something goes wrong during the striking process, such as misaligned dies, off-center strikes, doubled design elements, or other unusual features. While most 1990 quarters are perfectly normal, authenticated error examples can command significant premiums, especially if the error is dramatic and clearly visible. However, these coins must be carefully evaluated, as damage or wear is often mistaken for true mint errors. Looking at the market value and outlook for 2026, the general trend suggests stability for circulated examples and continued strength for high-grade coins. Circulated 1990 quarters will almost certainly remain worth face value, as their supply is enormous and demand is low. Uncirculated examples in average condition are expected to hold modest premiums, while the finest graded coins should continue to perform well at auctions. As more collectors focus on registry sets and competition for top-grade modern coins increases, demand for the highest quality 1990 quarters is likely to remain strong. For anyone searching through old jars, rolls, or collections, the key lesson is that condition matters more than age when it comes to modern coins like the 1990 Washington quarter. A worn coin is common and inexpensive, but a sharply struck, flawless example can be a prized collectible. Careful inspection, proper storage, and professional grading are essential steps if you believe you have an exceptional specimen. The 1990 Washington quarter tells an important story about modern American coinage. It represents everyday life in the late 20th century, the evolution of minting technology, and the way collector value is determined not just by rarity of date, but by rarity of condition. While most examples will never be worth more than a quarter, a select few stand out as valuable treasures, proving that even the most ordinary coin can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. The 1965 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark is one of the most important coins in modern United States history, not because it is rare in everyday circulation, but because it represents a major turning point in American coinage. Many people find this coin in their pocket change and wonder whether it could be worth a lot of money. To understand its true value, it is essential to explore its history, composition, rarity, collector demand, and how its market worth is expected to look as we move into 2026. The Washington quarter design was originally introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. For more than 3 decades, quarters were made from 90% silver, giving them intrinsic precious metal value. By the early 1960s, however, the price of silver had risen so sharply that the metal content of coins was approaching and sometimes exceeding their face value. As a result, the public began hoarding silver coins, which caused widespread shortages in circulation. In response to this economic pressure, the United States Mint made a historic decision in 1965 to remove silver from dimes and quarters entirely. The new quarters were produced using a copper-nickel clad composition, with outer layers of copper and nickel bonded to a solid copper core. This change dramatically altered the look, weight, and intrinsic value of the coin. The 1965 quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, compared to the older silver quarters which weighed around 6.25 grams. This single year marks the beginning of modern circulating coinage in the United States. Another key detail that often causes confusion is the absence of a mint mark. From 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint intentionally removed mint marks from all coins. This was done to discourage collectors from pulling coins out of circulation during a time when the mint was struggling to meet demand. Because of this policy, every 1965 Washington quarter was struck without a mint mark, regardless of whether it was produced in Philadelphia or Denver. Therefore, the lack of a mint mark does not indicate rarity for this particular year. In terms of mintage, the 1965 Washington quarter was produced in extremely large numbers, with hundreds of millions struck. This high production level means that the vast majority of these coins are very common. In circulated condition, most examples show noticeable wear from decades of use and typically hold little value beyond their face value. In everyday condition, a 1965 quarter is usually worth 25 cents, or slightly more if someone is paying a small premium for older coins. However, condition plays a critical role in determining value. Coins that were never circulated and have been well preserved can be significantly more valuable. Uncirculated examples still display their original mint luster, sharp details in Washington's hair and facial features, and strong definition in the eagle on the reverse. Coins in lower uncirculated grades may be worth only a few dollars, but as the grade increases, so does collector interest. High-grade specimens that have been professionally graded and certified can sell for tens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and eye appeal. What truly elevates the 1965 Washington quarter into the category of worth a lot of money are rare mint errors. During the transition from silver to clad coinage, a small number of quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for earlier issues. These silver planchet errors are among the most famous and valuable modern U.S. coin errors. They can be identified by their heavier weight and the absence of a visible copper edge. Authenticated examples of these silver errors are extremely rare and have sold for several $1,000s, with top-condition specimens bringing even higher prices. Other valuable errors include off-center strikes, double strikes, coins struck on the wrong type of blank, and dramatic die misalignments. While not as valuable as silver planchet errors, these coins can still command hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the severity and visibility of the mistake. It is important to note that minor imperfections or damage caused after the coin left the mint do not increase value and are often mistaken for errors by inexperienced collectors. As the market moves toward 2026, the value outlook for the 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter remains stable and well-defined. Ordinary circulated examples are expected to remain common and hold minimal value. Lower uncirculated coins will likely continue to trade in the low dollar range. High-grade certified examples, especially those with exceptional luster and strike quality, are expected to remain strong due to limited surviving populations in top condition. Rare mint errors, particularly silver planchet strikes, are expected to continue appreciating as collector demand grows and confirmed examples remain scarce. The 1965 Washington quarter is best viewed as a historical coin rather than a precious metal investment. It tells the story of economic change, government response, and the beginning of modern U.S. coinage. While most examples are not valuable, a small percentage are highly desirable and worth significant amounts of money. This makes the coin exciting for collectors, as even a common-looking quarter has the potential to be something special if it possesses the right characteristics. The 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar is a coin that bridges the gap between America's silver coinage past and its modern clad future. For most people, it remains a common piece of change, but for collectors who understand grading, errors, and rarity, it represents an opportunity. As interest in modern coins continues to grow, and as we look ahead to 2026, the highest quality and rarest examples of this coin are likely to remain valuable and sought after in the numismatic market. The 1981 mint mark Washington quarter dollar is a coin that many people have encountered without ever realizing the story it carries or the potential value it may hold under the right circumstances. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary modern quarter, one that has passed through countless hands in everyday commerce. However, when examined more closely through the lens of history, mint production, condition, and collector demand, the 1981 Washington quarter reveals itself as a coin with a meaningful place in U.S. numismatics and a value range that extends far beyond its face denomination. For certain examples, the Washington quarter design itself dates back to 1932, created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1981, this design had become deeply familiar to the American public, representing stability, continuity, and tradition within U.S. coinage. The obverse features John Flanagan's left-facing portrait of Washington, a dignified and restrained depiction that has stood the test of time. The reverse displays the heraldic eagle with spread wings, a symbol of national strength and unity, accompanied by olive branches that suggest peace and balance. This classic design remained in use for decades and defines the era in which the 1981 quarter was produced. The mint mark on this coin indicates that it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary facilities responsible for producing circulating coinage for the western and central United States. In 1981, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of daily commerce. Because of this high production volume, the 1981 Washington quarter is not rare in a general sense. Large numbers entered circulation immediately, and many remain in circulation even today. As a result, most examples found in pocket change are worth no more than their face value of 25 cents. The composition of the 1981 Washington quarter reflects the changes that took place in U.S. coinage during the mid-1960s. Unlike earlier quarters that were made of 90% silver, the 1981 quarter is a clad coin composed of an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition was adopted to reduce costs and preserve precious metal reserves, and it defines all regular issue quarters produced after 1964. Because it contains no silver, the intrinsic metal value of the 1981 quarter does not contribute to its collectible worth. Despite its common status, value enters the conversation when condition is taken into account. Coin grading plays a critical role in determining how much a 1981 Washington quarter is worth. Most coins that have circulated show wear on Washington's hair, the high points of the cheek and jaw, and the eagle's breast and wings. These worn examples are plentiful and carry little to no premium. However, coins that never entered circulation and remain in uncirculated condition are significantly more desirable. Uncirculated 1981 quarters retain their original mint luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces. Even so, not all uncirculated coins are equal. Small differences in surface marks, strike quality, and overall eye appeal can result in large differences in value. Coins graded in lower mint state levels typically sell for modest premiums, often only a few dollars. The true increase in value begins at the highest levels of preservation, where very few examples exist relative to the enormous number originally struck. High-grade 1981 Washington quarters that achieve elite mint state grades from professional grading services are genuinely scarce. These coins avoided contact marks during minting, transportation, and storage, and they were often preserved intentionally by collectors or dealers who recognized their quality early on. When such coins appear at auction, they can command prices that surprise many people, sometimes reaching hundreds of dollars and, in exceptional cases, approaching or exceeding $1,000. These prices are driven not by rarity of issue, but by rarity of condition. Another area of interest for collectors is mint errors. While the majority of 1981 quarters were struck correctly, a small number exhibit errors that occurred during the minting process. These may include off-center strikes, double dies, misaligned dies, or other striking anomalies. Error coins are highly dependent on visibility and severity. Minor errors may add little value, while dramatic and easily identifiable errors can be worth many times more than a normal coin. Authentication and professional grading are essential when dealing with error coins, as damage and post-mint alterations are often mistaken for genuine mint errors. As interest in coin collecting continues to evolve, modern issues like the 1981 Washington quarter have gained renewed attention. Many collectors are now focusing on assembling complete date and mint mark sets in high grade, which has increased demand for top-quality examples from high mintage years. This trend supports stable prices and gradual appreciation for certified high-grade coins as supply remains limited and demand slowly increases. Looking ahead to 2026, the overall market outlook for the 1981 Washington quarter remains steady. Circulated examples are expected to remain common and inexpensive, continuing to trade at or near face value. Uncirculated coins will maintain modest premiums, while certified high-grade specimens are likely to remain the primary drivers of strong prices. These top-tier coins may see incremental value growth over time, particularly as collectors compete for the finest known examples. It is important for anyone who believes they may have a valuable 1981 quarter to handle it carefully. Cleaning, polishing, or altering the coin in any way can permanently damage its surfaces and significantly reduce its value. Proper storage and professional evaluation are always recommended before attempting to sell or market a coin believed to be rare or valuable. The 1981 Mint Mark Washington quarter serves as a reminder that even the most ordinary-looking coins can carry layers of history and potential worth. While most examples will never be worth more than a quarter, a small number stand out due to exceptional preservation or unusual characteristics. For collectors, investors, and everyday enthusiasts alike, this coin represents the enduring appeal of numismatics and the idea that value is often hidden in plain sight. That if you learned something new today, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment about the most surprising coin you've ever found. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep hunting those numismatic treasures.